You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hello and welcome to Enterprise Splaining, a show where we explain Star Trek Enterprise to you and each other. I'm Bill, and I am joined by my co-host Jamie.
Hi.
And Maria.
Hello.
We've decided to do a podcast about Star Trek Enterprise, and as you might imagine, the first question on everyone's mind is, what were we thinking?
Well, that's a great question, Bill.
Okay, first of all, my first question is, how did I get involved in this? This is my question, because this was not my idea, despite the fact that I am the host of this first episode.
I think this is my fault.
And that's Jamie talking.
It's partially Maria's fault. Actually, I would say it's Steven's fault, our friend Steven, because he has talked about Enterprise to us. And every single thing that I hear about the show is more ridiculous than the last. And I really wanted to watch it, but only if I was doing it for our podcast.
Okay.
That's fair. And so JB and I had this conversation and talked about doing this. And of course, the first person we thought of to help us is you, Bill. Who else would we ask?
Either that or we needed somebody who was going to do all the actual work of editing the episodes because we didn't feel like doing it.
Jamie.
And we knew that Bill would do it.
Mine sounded better, Jamie.
I want to talk to both of you about who you are, your experience with Star Trek, and what you know about Enterprise.
Sure, you want me to go first?
Maria, go first, yes,
My
please.
experience with Star Trek was I started watching it in the early 90s when I didn't grow up in the US, and that was when I first came here for college. So I was watching Next Generation reruns, basically was my first real interaction with Star Trek. I immediately became obsessed with it to the point where this was back in the days, kids. You had to actually physically be there if you wanted to watch an episode. Yeah. So my roommates would get really mad at me because I'm a brand new freshman in college and I had to be home at 6 p.m. every evening so I could watch Star Trek.
What a time to be alive.
But yeah, so I love Star Trek and have watched pretty much all the Star Trek with the exception of Enterprise. I started it and I've actually watched, I believe, 1 to 1.5 seasons, and then I just gave up on it. And that is quite shocking for anybody who knows me because I do really love Star Trek.
Okay, so let's talk to Jamie, because Jamie's experience with Star Trek was actually part of the impetus of me wanting to be a part of this. So Jamie, tell us about your history with Star Trek.
I did not watch Star Trek when I was younger.
Right?
No, not at all.
Okay.
And then I was actually many years ago, I was on this NPR podcast called How to Do Everything, asking, how do I watch Star Trek? And they had Jonathan Frakes come on and give me advice. It was terrible advice. It was advice to start at the beginning. That is not good advice for somebody to watch Star Trek. It didn't really work. So I didn't watch it for a while. And then the pandemic happened and I started watching TNG from the beginning. Watched all of that, took a break, and then started watching DS9. I am halfway through the 6th season.
You also did kind of skip around the original series, as I recall. You took recommendations.
I've seen a handful of episodes of it, but that's about it. Oh, I guess I've seen some of the newer stuff a little bit. I watched Strange New Worlds
and Lower Decks, right? Yeah,
definitely. The Enterprise truly knew almost nothing. I know 6 facts about Enterprise.
Okay. Yeah, basically, we previously had a conversation where people were telling you the craziest things that happened on Enterprise,
yes. and based on that, I know 6 facts.
Your reaction to that, I think, was fascinating. It was like, that didn't happen. But they wouldn't have done that.
A lot of these things, I truly, when it was first told to me, I did not believe. I thought you guys were messing with me. But the 6 facts that I know about Enterprise going in, I know that the theme song is a Diane Warren theme song, and I had heard it one time. Second, Read Alert. I heard about Read Alert. A guy named Reed invented Red Alert. It was called Read Alert or something.
Please, I think it's better if you provide no context. Just tell us the 6 things you know. So that's 2. Read Alert. 3.
I know the line, I can see my house from here.
Okay, 4.
I know that Scott Bakula is in it. I know about sexy decontamination showers.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I knew.
And I know how it ends. That the entire show is actually part of Riker's holodeck program.
Which, do we need to put a spoiler alert at the beginning of the show for this 21-year-old show, 23-year-old
It's a little
show?
too late for that. I just told you how it ends.
How it
That's
ends, I'm sorry, I'm going to spoil this for you. The last bit of the last episode of Enterprise is it turns out that Commander William Riker from The Next Generation has actually been he's been binging this whole series on the holodeck to learn how the Federation was founded. And when we get to that point, we'll get to that. But it was
Bill,
one of the most...
we are not getting to that point.
We're never getting there.
Well, I'm just going to tell you,
Never
we're
get
going to
there.
make a lot of jokes about Riker in this series.
I think what's important about that particular piece of information is what we would like to point out is at interesting points in each episode, Riker is watching this happen.
Yeah. So where's Riker? Maybe one of the segments.
And Jamie, I think a lot of the things, those 6 things are the few things I remember about Star Trek Enterprise, because that was the context of me trying to tell you any of the stuff that I remember. So I think when it comes to Enterprise, we are in very similar places.
As for myself, I am your standard old white guy nerd. I'm not old enough to have watched the original series when it was first on, but it was on in syndication when I was a kid. I don't remember a point where Star Trek was not part of my life. I love the original series. I saw the original series Star Trek movies when they came out in theaters. I'm your classic Kirk versus Picard. I'm the white and nerdy guy. Like if you listen to White and Nerdy, you're talking about me. Loved Next Generation when it came out. I checked out on DS9 because it went in a different direction. It was very dark. I checked out on Voyager after a couple of seasons, and I never watched Enterprise, but I have seen all of the episodes of Star Trek the Animated Series.
So I think our varied experience is going to be a really important component of this and make things very interesting because we're all over the place. It's
gonna be a wild ride. I love Star Trek.
Yeah. Me too.
I co-wrote 2 different Star Trek plays. One was called The Complete Works of William Shatner, which is about the different versions of William Shatner meeting each other. I love William Shatner. I think William Shatner is a good actor, by the way, just to give you the temperature of the room. And then I co-wrote a holiday-themed play. I didn't write it in Klingon, but it was performed in Klingon called It's an Honorable Life.
Nice. And just to be clear, you love William Shatner, the actor. Probably not so much William Shatner, the human being. Yeah, I was going
to say, those are 2 different things.
It's complicated.
Yeah, we're not going to get into that right now.
Let's not start the first episode of Enterprise with this.
Going.
Okay,
we got a lot to do. And so what I think, Bill, would you like to explain to our vast audience how we decided to structure this podcast?
Basically, because none of us have seen all of Enterprise, what we decided to do is we're going to take, except for this the pilot episode, we have all watched the 2-parter, Broken Bow. For each subsequent episode, we're going to do a thing where we are going to rotate hosts. The host is going to watch the next episode of Enterprise and then describe it to the 2 people who have not seen it. And it's going to be absolutely insane. But this is the podcast. I'm putting my marker down here. This is the podcast that is going to heal America.
Yeah, I feel like this came out of the fact that over the pandemic, the 3 of us and some other friends have been having these Zooms, and other people who have watched Enterprise have been trying to explain to the rest of us what happens on this show, and it is
and it's
like
such
not
a
even believable,
strange outlier in so many ways, good and bad. I think I did not enjoy it, and then I have since tried to watch it and not been able to watch it. So this is going to be really interesting because I gave up on it a couple of times. So we'll see if I make it, how far we make it this time.
I have so many notes, but if I discussed all of the notes I took about this first episode of this podcast,
nobody's listening to it. Nobody's listening to a 4-hour podcast, Bill. Not about Enterprise.
About Star Trek Enterprise? Are you crazy? But I have so many thoughts and notes about the context in which this show.
Sure, and we will get into all of that, I'm sure.
So for this first episode, we've decided to divide the summary into thirds, and Jamie will be describing the first third of. Okay, here's a question I have. Why is this episode called Broken Bow?
Great question. I had the same question. No idea.
I had not even thought about it.
Okay, thank you.
Why is it not called something about the wind? Why is it not called Don't Fear the Wind would be a great episode title?
Don't Fear the Wind, yeah.
know.
Here's a general observation I have about this first episode is that I'm trying to learn nothing about this series because I want to go into it blank. But there are points where I'm watching this episode, it's like, did I miss something or did they literally not explain this? Okay, so Broken Bow never comes up in this episode. Okay, cool. Thank you.
No idea why.
Perfect. Computer, what is the plot of Enterprise Episode 1, Broken Bow?
Broken Bow, Part 1. The Enterprise crew sets on a maiden voyage with a mission to return a wounded Klingon to his people.
All right.
Okay, I love that.
That doesn't sound like Majel Barrett.
Close enough.
All right, before I start, I just want to warn you guys. I had no idea what I was watching. I don't know any character names at this point.
I think that's normal.
I also have face blindness, so I can't tell most of the characters apart, so I don't know who's in each scene. So good luck.
Here's the good news, Jamie. You are not alone in that, and it has nothing to do with your face blindness. All these people look the same.
All right, so
The first third of Broken
opening
Bow.
scene. We start with a flashback of some kid making a model ship with his dad. And then we cut to Oklahoma, where a Klingon is running through a field and creepy aliens are chasing him. So these aliens have like gold crusty skin.
Pebble skin, yeah.
Yeah, pebble. I like that. So the Klingon runs into a building, and as they're chasing him, they like ooze under the door.
I was too busy yelling, "There's Klingons in the grain, Mom!"
That's what I said. There's Klingons in the corn.
No. This is good.
Are we interrupting? Are we going to let her do the summary or going to interrupt us
Here
and
we
go through the
go,
summary?
people.
Okay,
Let's
fine.
get into it.
I forgot. The important thing is that the farmer shot the Klingon.
The farmer has a laser shotgun. Now we can talk about the theme song.
What's
Right,
really important is that Diane Warren. You guys, Diane Warren.
Why?
Yeah. Guys, this theme song, truly Diane Warren, the queen of power ballads, 14-time Oscar nominee, never won.
God.
She's been nominated for Best Song at the
Oscar
Oscars
nominee?
14
Really?
times and never won.
Wow.
But I
Damn,
think-
now I feel bad for making fun of this, but it's
Whoa.
not good, guys.
Um,
The song, I was thinking about it earlier. Like, objectively, there's nothing wrong with the song. It's perfectly adequate as a song, but it is so wrong and so strange over Star Trek credits, particularly since
Huge hit for Rod Stewart in 1999. It's fine. Star Trek's had
beautiful orchestral pieces.
3 major series, and they're all these huge orchestral score, the majesty of space travel.
yeah, like, look, if you are making a hit space movie in the 90s and you need a song for your soundtrack by Aerosmith, you go with Diane Warren.
Did she write Don't Want to Miss a Thing? I was in the video for that song.
Wait, what?
In the video, if you watch the video for Don't Want to Miss a Thing, they do like the whole thing where there's a bunch of
That's
violinists in the
amazing.
background. I'm one of those guys.
Yeah, Bill, that's an amazing fact.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that was the person who wrote that song.
No, Diane Warren's like amazing. She is truly iconic at power ballads. Like, that is her thing.
So
She
she's like the female Jim Steinman.
Sure.
Star Trek is not power ballad.
Hmm.
As we go through the episode, the whole thing is that this is humanity's first real step into the stars. Practically none of the visuals are about space travel. It's about the evolution
Which I actually, the visuals in the credits are gorgeous and I love them. I loved that whole story it told. And I actually remember when I first saw this episode, I was so excited for new Star Trek, and I watched it, and I tried, you guys. I tried for like 3 episodes to convince myself that this song was fine, and it just doesn't go, but I tried.
Why did they do this?
My assumption is they somehow wanted to make it feel different, make it be a different for maybe for a younger audience, although I don't feel like that was the right song for a younger audience, but whatever. But I feel like they just wanted to sort of say that they wanted to make this big, like, this is not your father's Star Trek kind of a thing.
Yeah.
We're cool. It has a very hello fellow kids vibe.
Obviously, I haven't watched the show yet other than this episode, but it makes me think that the show is going to be more focused on like drama between characters, which is generally like not a big Trek thing. But the theme song itself just has that feeling to it.
Anytime I mention Enterprise, like that we're doing this podcast, the theme is, oh God, the theme song. I was like, what's wrong with the theme song? It's like, just wait till. And I was expecting something like Yoko Ono or like just Metal Machine music, just like coming. There's like
either of those would probably.
Oh wow, this
have
is
been
even
better.
weirder than I thought it would be.
But as you mentioned, Maria, I loved the imagery, like,
Beautiful.
and especially because I feel like the show fits in a really weird place because in one way it takes place in our future, so it should be futuristic, but it is historical in terms of the Trek universe, in terms of up till that point, what everybody's seen. This is history. So, and I'll kind of mention it with like the outfits and the set design later, but I feel like with the way they've designed it, it has a weird feeling of being both in the future and in the past.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what they were trying. They were sort of trying to create this proto Star Trek, right? This is the first days of the very first days of what it became. And so there's a lot of Easter eggs in there for Trekkies who have seen other shows, but it also just has this great feel of what would it be like, you know?
This is the other thing I knew about Enterprise is that it's the alpha release of Star Trek. There is no Federation.
This is humanity's first venture.
So taking that to its logical conclusion and applying it to the theme song, is a Diane Kirkland power ballad the logical starting point for the orchestral music themes of all of the others?
How great would it be if as they're taking the Enterprise NX-01 out for the first time, Archer just pops a cassette tape into the or an 8-track just in there. My father always loved this. Okay, so here's my second question. I have a follow-up question, which is very important. What song would you replace? And you can't choose an orchestral song. It has to be like a pop, or it has to be like
Dua Lipa's Levitate. Because the song is a song about a spaceship who is in love. I would argue. Yeah,
that's a much better answer than mine, which is Smash Mouth's All Star.
I had that on my list. So I actually went through because this version of the song was released in 2001, but the Rod Stewart original version was released in 1999. So I was looking at songs that had been released in that era, and these are my picks based on what songs. So 2001, Get Your Freak On by Missy Elliott. But this is kind of the same vibe also, With Arms Wide Open by Creed.
Oh my goodness.
So for the 1999 version, Hit Me Baby One More Time.
I can see it.
It would not be more ridiculous than the actual theme song that they chose for the show.
I have two more choices. I Want It That Way by Backstreet Boys. But I think my actual pick might be Mambo Number 5 by Lou Bega. They line up pretty well.
The episode itself. There's some guys on a ship talking. I don't know what they were talking about, you guys. Because one of them was wearing a baseball hat. Which just felt very out of place. Was it? Okay.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
He came in from leave.
Well, this would have been the first time I'd ever seen him. So I didn't know what he was like. But his hat.
Jamie, how familiar are you with Scott Bakula?
Not at all.
Oh.
Wow.
Okay.
He had a hat that said NX-01. Do you guys know what that is?
That's the model number of the ship, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
I did not know that.
So the Enterprise, as we know from the original series, NCC 1701.
All right. Well,
And
he
you
was wearing that.
actually see that in the scene that you're about to talk about, where we first see Enterprise. You will see, if you ever choose to watch it again, you'll see the
Right.
NX-01 is on the hull.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did we see that? I don't know, because the next note was that we're in a hospital. We're in a hospital room. The Klingon that was shot in the field earlier is lying unconscious, and there's a whole bunch of dudes and one Vulcan lady that are talking about what to do about this Vulcan. And a bunch of them just want to let him die, which honestly does not feel very like Trekkie to me. From based on TNG and other stuff, like the idea that they would just be like, it would actually be an option. Like, what if we just let this?
What if we just didn't do anything? Yeah, I actually have a couple of notes about this for later. I feel like this is a lot harsher reality
Right.
Star Trek than Federation level Star Trek. Anyway,
Yeah, like we're not quite in Utopian yet, but wait, sorry,
we're
are we
near
not
it.
in Federation yet?
Yeah,
No, the Federation
doesn't
does not
here.
exist.
So the Vulcans showed up. This is humanity is very, very early into space flight and into not space flight, but warp drive.
Okay, so we're like very early.
So the Vulcans
Okay.
showed up. They had first contact, and that's why that's why the humans are so mad. At why Archer is so mad is because the Vulcans have spent, however
100
years kind of holding them back and saying, you're not ready,
Right.
you're not ready, you're not ready. And even now, when they're finally feel like they should be going, the Vulcans are still like, nope, you're not ready to deal with what's out there. And so that's why Archer's so pissy. But yes, this is pre-Federation.
Because I was going to say, like, in this scene, Archer's arguing with these like admirals or whatever, and Archer's and like our admirals are arguing that this Klingon should die, and Archer's obviously upset about it, but he's like arguing on the merits of it. And then like when the Vulcan lady says something he disagrees with, he like threatens to fight her.
He's super violent. Like he threatens to beat her, like to punch her at some point.
The first note I want to make is that the lead Klingon ambassador is not played by Peter Gallagher. Okay. It is not Peter Gallagher, and you can tell because his eyebrows aren't bushy enough. It's in fact the actor who was the human detective on Alien Nation, the TV series.
The lead Vulcan ambassador, not the lead Klingon.
The lead Vulcan ambassador. Sorry, yeah.
And
sorry, yeah. Lead Vulcan.
I actually also have that note. Alien Nation Vulcan is my note.
Also, it's called a Klingon. I was like,
the Klingon. It's great. That was a very cute. That was a cute one.
And this is the point where I started to realize, I think we're getting into Phantom Menace prequelitis, where it's like they feel like they have to explain, those things you love. It's like
This is where they came from. This is
red alerts.
Yeah. No, don't.
So contextual question. So then in that case, they're not at war with the Klingons yet. Right?
This is the first time they've even seen a Klingon.
Oh, okay. Wait,
they have no idea. All of that talking that you missed at the beginning was basically them saying, "What the fuck is this thing?" And the Vulcans saying it's a Klingon.
I was so focused on that baseball hat. You guys.
So the big deal in this episode is that Enterprise is the first human ship that, in theory, can reach Warp 5. And that's going to open up. It's basically like...
Oh, yeah, no, so I got that later. But if this is the first time that they've seen a Vulcan, then how do they know so much? Or sorry, the first time that they've seen a Klingon, then how do they know so much about Klingon society?
The Vulcans told them.
Okay.
The Vulcans are trying to explain to them what the Klingons are all about.
Got it.
The dynamic we know from all of Trek is that humans are running the show. Sure. Humans are like, and Vulcans are their sub friends, and they're good, and like we can trust them and stuff. This is basically it inverts this dynamic where the Vulcans are the repressed parents telling humanity they don't get to drive the car.
I'm going to do the thing.
This is Star Trek Rumspringa. where the humans are gonna fuck around and do whatever the fuck
All
they
right.
want.
Okay,
and-
I got it. I think I know where I am in time. So we at this point we cut to the Enterprise and we get to meet the rest of the bridge crew. Guy with British accent, guy with American accent, guy with Southern accent. the three other people on the bridge crew.
It's kind of amusing that they pretend that there are other crew members when it's really just one guy running around and
Yeah.
putting on a different hat.
Yeah, a slightly different uniform.
I am not going into this with the premise of this is a shitty show.
Nope.
Let's make fun of it. I am really trying to engage with this and taking it as come. These actors, except for Scott Bakula and some of the others, are making no impression on me whatsoever.
That's correct. Yeah, I mean,
But yeah, it's the first
but I
episode.
will say, yeah, this was in there in the first, the first couple of scenes where there's where the American accent guy Travis is chit-chatting with Southern guy.
Yeah, this
No,
Oh,
it's
wait, no,
English
I was-
accent.
I
No,
was
it's
thinking the
it's
scene when
English
he's on it.
accent and Southern accent.
No, I was talking about American accent. Travis.
Well, Travis has a Southern accent. He's like got that. Well, back in Texas, we don't. You're waiting till you have some spare ribs.
I'd like for you to check your notes on that.
Yeah, by
sir.
American
Does he?
accent I mean like a Midwest or like a
Travis is the black
TV
guy. Travis
like a
Mayweather.
Newcaster American accent.
Is he?
Yes.
Wait. Okay. First of all, you cannot refer to these characters by their first name because they all fucking start with T.
I know. I'm
Okay,
just
yes.
saying. You're the one
Okay,
who
yes, Travis-
insisted that Travis had a Southern accent.
Oh,
You
God.
were quite sure about
Well,
it.
obviously I was right. Okay, sorry. It's Malcolm. Oh God.
Yeah.
I've lost the thread. I've lost the thread already.
Well,
Okay.
Okay.
But my point is, they were really trying to establish rapport, and the one thing I did laugh at was the three boobs joke. First hand, second hand, third hand.
Okay.
I was like, well played, Trek. Well played. I laughed.
Here's my question. Was it a boobs joke?
It was a boob joke.
What?
No.
What
They
is-
said no, because what they say in this episode, and this I will stand by, is like, is it true that the females on that planet have three ... Yep, and I know from firsthand experience.
No, they're definitely making a boob joke because
Okay.
it's like a sci-fi thing
What
to have
indeed?
alien women with three boobs. It's like a sci-fi
Please.
cliche.
Yeah, it's absolutely a boob joke.
I do want to comment on just the
Total
set
Recall.
design.
Sorry.
Thank you, Maria. I love the set design and I love the uniforms. It's giving like World War II submarine.
Mm-hmm.
The uniforms are giving like flight
Flight suits, kind
yeah,
of.
like flight
Yeah.
suits. It's very
Yeah,
cool,
test
and I think it
pilots.
fits with the like future history
Yep.
feel,
I
where
agree.
it's like we're in the future, but it feels historical to have set designs that sort of look like things from our
And
history.
the dress uniforms in particular, I noticed, and that's I think a little bit later on in the episode, but they're really neat with the gold collars and stuff. I loved them.
Oh yeah, I love all of the like the sets looked great. The on the Enterprise, the sets looked great, and yeah, I just love their uniforms.
I want to disagree. I don't like the uniforms. I think they're very indistinct because everybody is wearing there's only a little bit. They're all the same color. There's only a little bit of piping that distinguishes them, and this gets into an issue I want to discuss, and maybe this will evolve over time. What is Starfleet at this point? Because they don't seem to be military. They don't seem to be scientific. They don't seem to. They basically, you know what this struck me as? Like the entirety of like all these. It seems like a startup. It seems like these are a bunch of disruptors who have put together a spaceship, concept, and they're going to, go out and disrupt the Vulcan hegemony
I mean,
of
I assumed they were military at this point. I mean,
But they don't act military.
This is Star Trek military, right? So this is after all of so there's, all the
Right.
terrible stuff that humanity did to itself and then somehow reached enlightenment. And that's where we are now, at least theoretically.
It feels very military. I mean, even like their argument about like, well, let's just like let the Klingon die, like that. They're like, that's how we would save ourselves.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into this later. It does not feel military to me. Okay, let's continue.
I did want to point out, actually, I forgot one thing, which was, to be fair, the Vulcans make a very solid point. If you understand, like, if you know the backstory of like who the Klingons actually are, their point, which is that for a Klingon to not die in battle, it's like the worst thing ever. That is a absolutely valid point.
Right.
Yeah, I was
from the perspective of the Klingons.
From what I know about Klingons, that Klingon would have wanted them to let them die.
And so I think, and of course and this is what Star Trek has always been about, right? The humans are immediately take it from their human bias and say, no, we have to, at least the captain does, even though the military guys don't.
This gets into an interesting dynamic, which is that the Vulcans, like, they're the repressive parents. They don't feel the need to explain anything until they have to, which is
yeah.
Anyways,
and they're also very smug. Like, you really really want every single Vulcan to get fucking smacked down.
Yeah, I have a lot of notes about T'Pol is just bitchy for no reason, like just plain bitchy. And I mean, I kind of get it, but it's also like,
no, humanity objectively sucks. Let's be clear. If you're the civilization that has been ruling the roost for 400 years,
she's dealing with she's basically a bunch of frat boys,
exactly.
And frat boys
100%
who smell like frat boys to her, right?
She's so rude to the translator lady later.
So mean, though, so mean.
Speaking of which, the next scene, we meet the translator lady.
Oh boy!
And Archer convinces her to come on the Enterprise with him. And then we meet the most important character on the show. It is a dog. It is the beagle.
You are correct.
I cannot remember his name. Porthos?
His name is Porthos. His name is Porthos, and I would just like to interrupt by saying that I will be tracking Porthos sightings through this entire podcast for every episode, and I will just mention it now since we're there. There were 6 Porthos sightings, so quite a good Porthos level this episode.
Did you guys ever read the Hawkeye, the Marvel Hawkeye comic book series that came out like 10 years ago or so? So at one point it's just about his life when he's not an Avenger. And at one point he finds a stray dog and adopts it. And there is one episode that is told from the perspective of the dog using symbolic. If there is an episode of Star Trek that is told from the perspective of Porthos, this will immediately go to the top of my Star Trek ranking.
Well, we'll see.
Honestly, at this point, if you told me this ship had an episode from Porthos's point of view, I would believe that.
100%.
Yeah.
Why isn't this called?
It's not impossible in my mind.
Why isn't there an episode? Why isn't this show called Star Trek Porthos?
Agreed. Shit would have been.
He's a beagle. He's adorable.
Let's go to the launching ceremony for the Enterprise. So this is where we learn that it's the first
Warp 5.
Warp 5, thank you. The first Warp 5 engine. And it was designed by Archer's father, which makes Archer a Nepo baby. Also, we get some great dress uniforms.
I love the dress uniforms.
And then we get this weird scene with the crusty aliens, but they're like all phasey, and there's like somebody in charge talking to them. I don't know. It was very boring.
Yeah, the fuzzy guy. I kept I kept
Yeah.
no the fuzzy guy was it were we at the point with the fuzzy guy, the future
Yeah,
fuzzy
there
guy?
was like some overlord giving them commands, and
I
he
just
was all
for some
daisy.
reason I kept like looking, and then I would find like I would see, and I have convinced myself that he has an extremely long nose, so I have started calling him Pinocchio Man.
See, my impression is that it's not Peter Gallagher at this point.
I don't even know what that
That
means,
is-
Bill. We
Yeah,
know
I
nothing
don't-
about this.
the Vulcan, they get this mysterious. There's a mysterious figure who we can't see that they're getting orders from, but I've convinced myself it's the Vulcan ambassador. That just as watching this
It
episode,
seemed like a Vulcan.
Pinocchio guy.
Sure. We'll call him
Continue.
Pinocchio guy from now on. Then we come back to the Enterprise and we meet another bridge crew. The I think he's the doctor.
okay. This is
he's a new bumpy
okay.
head
I'm gonna pan
alien.
down.
I've never seen this race before.
Nobody had
Phlox.
at this point. Dr. Phlox.
Phlox.
Dr.
Dr. Phlox,
Doc
And
Phlox.
who is the only character who seems to realize how goofy this show is.
There's a whole lot of Dr. Seuss feel to this with Doc Phlox
Yeah.
and Clang the Klingon. Come on, Clang the Klingon.
yeah, I forgot that the
Guys.
Klingon's name was Kling. Oh my
How
God.
great would it be if Phlox said, because Phlox is introduced like they don't have like all this amazing healing technology that we see in Star Trek. He has like critters that he will put on you and stuff. How amazing would it be if he went full Doctor say, "This is a whiz bangler. It will flux your McDuckler."
Well, it's like even weirder because in the scene he has this animal in a box that we don't see, and he says that
Right.
it's like it's some sort of alien animal from an alien planet, but
Right.
he says it's a marsupial.
Is,
Makes no sense at all.
is Phlox one of those guys who practices natural medicine? Like he doesn't want to inject you with
Yeah,
like
he's a
antibodies and stuff. He
Fucking
wants to put
homeopath.
unleash. Yeah, he's a homeo. Phlox is
Phlox is a
homeo.
fucking homeopath, you guys. He practices Ayurveda.
Whenever we figure out what the title of this show is, the subtitle for this episode will be Phlox is a homeopath.
It's fine.
I just want to know how an animal that evolved in Australia ended up on an alien planet for him to find, but that is not.
Yeah.
The space bridge. They crossed the space bridge. before.
He's a space marsupial. He evolved
space
from
marsupial.
Space Australia, obviously, Jamie.
Space Australia.
Is that
Oh
that's
god,
in-
that implies
that's in
that there
the
are space
southern part of
Australians.
space, right?
Right.
Well, here's my question: Are Klingons actually just space Australians?
I mean,
Extremely violent. Everything on their planet is trying to kill them. They don't. They
Yeah.
drink a lot.
yeah, there's a case to be made.
So the next scene,
Oh,
I really
boy.
liked this scene where it was the American accent crew member and Archer comes in and sees him like sitting on the ceiling, and he says
that's
that
cute.
like, yeah, based on like, I don't know, the whatever they
It's
use
not
for
Archer,
artificial
though,
Jamie,
is
I'm
it?
geography.
sorry,
It's-
it was not
Wait,
Archer. It was Trip.
wasn't?
That was Trip.
What?
It's Trip.
Okay,
That's southern. That's southern
It's
accent.
Southern accent guy.
really?
I'm so sorry.
Yes. It's
Okay, well, I liked the scene. It was
a cute scene.
It was a cute scene. And it was nice to see them like interacting and like getting to know each other.
Yeah.
Also the 3 boob joke.
Yeah, I liked all of
they
that.
call Travis something like because he was born in space. They call him was it a boomer or something? It wasn't boomer.
I think it was Boomer because I had a note that I didn't know
It's
what
like,
it was
okay,
for.
Boomer.
It's exactly what I had a note and I couldn't remember what it was for. It said, "Okay, Space
But-
Boomer."
But yeah, but the point was he hasn't lived on a planet. Like, and he
Right.
brings that up that like he only knows artificial gravity. Like he
And
comments
this-
at one point that the artificial gravity fear is weird because it's Earth normal.
Oh, right. Because he says that he like grew up on like, are they like manufacturing?
Like a
ships
cargo
some
ship
sort?
or
Or cargo
something?
ships?
He was on a
Okay.
cargo ship, yeah. So
Yeah.
he's a space. Well, he's a space millennial.
Yeah,
But yes,
and
they
this
call them
comes
boomers.
back. This comes back later, and I have thoughts in my section. But please continue.
Okay, so then we jump to dinner with no, I don't know. Now I'm scared that none of these characters are going to be correct. I believe it was Archer, the guy with the southern accent, and the
That's it,
Vulcan
correct?
lady who I believe her name
Yeah.
is
That is
T'Pol.
correct.
To Paul.
Great.
Yeah.
So they're having this scene is so strange because they're having dinner and they're like making fun of DePaul for being vegetarian. And then she's like,
Yep.
Yeah,
bad
it's
that you're
weird.
eating animals and it's kind of gross, which true. And they're like so rude about it.
I was
They're
really
dicks.
they're real dicks about it. And I mean, I think I'm just seeing it with my 2024 lens, but I was really expecting them to be like, oh no, these aren't really animals. These are lab grown,
Yeah.
whatever.
No, they don't have the food replicators at this point. Like
Right.
a waiter brings
then-
in
Right.
the plates.
If they don't have food replicators, so these are like real steaks. So do they just have like, is like half of the Enterprise just
Oh,
like
Great
like
question.
freezers filled with steaks?
That's a
That would be
great question.
amazing.
If
I hope we
it's
see
if
that.
it's either freezers filled with steak or actual cows, and there's somebody whose job it is to butcher the cows in space.
Because it makes no sense if you're on a spaceship to be eating steak. Like it, to be fair, this was like their first night
Yeah,
on the
it was
spaceship.
probably like
So maybe it was just like their
an
special starter meal.
extravagance,
They're
yeah.
not going to be eating steak and potatoes every night.
Yeah, that was my assumption.
So T'Pol was assigned as science officer as a concession to the Vulcans because the Vulcans did not want the humans to go on this mission to return the Klingon to Kronos. So she is there.
Yeah, to make
And
sure
yes,
they don't
they-
like fuck it all up.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
they definitely
And
fuck
they
it all
are-
up. in this episode.
They are
Wanna do
being
the thing.
they are being complete dicks to her, but in their defense, she's trying to eat a breadstick with a fork.
Yeah,
Which if I was at dinner with somebody and they
Solid
tried
point.
to do that, I'd be like,
That's a solid point.
Yeah,
No,
but
that's
it
a
was
solid
impressive when she managed to stick the fork in that
It was
breadstick.
very
It was
cool.
impressive.
And for
yes.
the people who have not seen this episode, this is not like a soft breadstick. This is like one of those like hard,
Crunchy
crunchy
breadstick.
breadsticks. She like sticks her fork in it.
Yep.
I can save this for my segment, but can we talk about T'Pol's costuming?
Yeah, I have. I mean,
yeah,
I have
forgot
notes on
she's
T'Pol's
wearing
costuming.
a tight
right.
bodysuit.
Exactly. So when T'Pol first showed up, you see all the Vulcans in this sort of, they're wearing these robes, stuff. And then she shows up in the outfit she's going to be wearing for the rest of the episode, which I wrote down as combat bustier, because Jerry Ryan's 7 of 9
It's a-
outfit in Voyager has nothing on this.
I actually wrote that it's a matte version of 7 of 9's outfit.
First of all, she's an amazing looking human being. She looks like Angelina Jolie in Hackers. She is wearing a super tight bodysuit. And not only is it a bodysuit, there is a band just below her bust line to make sure that it's super tight around.
And FYI, that was true for 7 of 9 as well.
Did she have a band? I don't remember
Oh,
the
yes.
band for Zana.
Oh
Okay.
yes.
So
That's why
maybe they sold
it
them
was,
out.
and I don't know. It feels like that was like 7 of 9 did so well and was such a popular character.
Oh, yeah.
Let's put this gorgeous,
I have so
curvy
many notes
woman
about
also into a jumpsuit, but she's Vulcan, so she's not going to be all flashy like 7 of 9 is.
Yeah,
We'll
no,
make a
she's-
matte
yeah.
version of it.
I have so many notes which we can discuss in another episode about what was going on in television around this
Yeah,
time. But
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
but she's extremely sexified and objectified in this show.
Oh yeah,
So-
I mean, wait till we get to
Just in this
decontamination.
episode.
So one of the notes I made was that not only did the Vulcans have the secret of warp 5 technology, but also collagen implants in their lips.
Good Lord. For
Yeah.
real.
Oh my gosh, her lips. Wow.
Yeah.
Those
She looks amazing.
Anyways, we're almost to the end of my part. We
Right.
cut back to the hospital. The Klingons woken up. The translator lady's with him, and I was confused actually in the earlier scene when he asked her to join with the translator
Mhm.
lady, when he asked her to join him on the ship, because I was like, do they not have universal translators? And then I was like, well, they must not. But then she shows up in the hospital with a universal translator. So I'm
Yeah.
like, well,
They
what
have-
is the point of her?
But I think they have very basic universal translators
Yeah.
that are like have like their
Clearly,
like
because
they
it did not
that makes
work.
them because that's how they understand the Vulcans, right? Because that's the Vulcans gave them that, but they don't have. I guess the Vulcans chose not to give them the full universal translator
100%.
database, right? That's the only thing that makes sense
100%.
there.
This is one of the things that doesn't make sense, is that I get that the Vulcans are controlling the information because humans have had a very violent history, as had the Vulcans, and they don't want to, but you're sending them on a mission to the Klingon home planet.
Yeah, it didn't
Give them the information. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unless the Vulcans didn't have that either for some reason, but that doesn't seem like it makes sense.
Right. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
the universal translator breaks immediately.
So
they do need her translation, but the Klingon, whose name is Clang,
playing the Klingon.
Yeah.
Clang
Playing
the
the Klingon.
is
And flots
just
the dock.
speaking complete nonsense.
Flots the dock and Clang the Klingon.
The lights go out.
Oh no.
They lose power.
Dun dun dun. Oh no, what will happen to the crew at this crucial moment? Hi everybody, it's Bill again, interrupting here. When we first recorded this episode, we intended to do both parts of Broken Bow as one episode, but we had so much fun recording it that we went too long and decided to break it up into two parts because for some reason, Jamie and Maria seem to think that nobody's going to listen to a multiple-hour podcast about Star Trek Enterprise. I think they're crazy. We will be back soon with the second part of Broken Bow, but until then, special thanks to K.O. Myers at Particulate Media for sound assistance, to our friend David for our beautiful cover art, and to John Stephen King for being the voice of our computer. If you want to get in contact with us, our email address is enterprisesplaining@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram at enterprisesplaining and on Blue Sky at enterprisesplain. And if you want to support us, and I can't imagine why you would, you can go and find us on Buy Me a Coffee at enterprisesplaining. We'll be back. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.
Computer and program.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping for the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.